Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Mr. J. This is W.A.D. MTG. Doing my next video, coming back at you on a Tuesday, the 22nd of October. I just wanted to go over some things from the weekend real quick, and then I was gonna go over a couple of cards I bought right now, or I just bought, and then I'm gonna do my first Wild Deck-teck. So over the weekend, I had a load down to Tampa, like Treasure Island area. It was a hurricane relief load. I had some construction equipment and some diesel transfer tanks, and I got down there and it was all tore up and everything. I finally got unloaded. I thought I was going to stay the weekend in Tampa, but because I was requested to load out towards Vegas for MagicCon Vegas, and I had a chance at it. They sent me to this trade show in Orlando, and there's another guy there that works for the same company, and we were both waiting for the loads that were slotted for our company, and they called him first. So he got loaded like an hour and a half before I got loaded, and it took all day. I was there for like 14, 15 hours. And if his load went to Vegas, so if I would have got called like an hour and a half early, I would have been on my way to Vegas with his load, and I would have got to enjoy MagicCon. So I guess I was just going to show real quick that I took, because I'm living out of the truck basically, and hotel rooms and stuff right now, me and the dog. Say hi, baby. Hi, baby. Yeah. But yeah, so basically living out of the truck and out of hotel rooms and stuff with the dog. But I decided, since I got most of my stuff in storage, and I've been playing a lot of Spell Table lately, and games over the road and stuff like that, I decided to grab most of my Magic stuff and build like a on the road kit, like a deck builder kit type deal. It's got all my decks and stuff in it, so I'm going to show that to you guys real quick. Like I said, I was like an hour and a half away from being able to go to Vegas, and I'd have had pretty much all my Magic stuff with me. So Magic bag that I packed, it's just a big duffel. It's got all my good shit in it. So it's got all these different like fat packs and stuff in there. It's got like in the fat packs, I've got like staple cards from each color and for artifacts and stuff like that, separated up, so it's real easy for me to find like commons and uncommons and stuff that are stapley that would go in any kind of deck. I've also got a bunch of unworked precons. Some of them are unopened. Like in the back, I've got the Dustmorn, Endless Punishment, Miracle Worker unopened. I've got the Modern Horizons 3 Eldrazi's unopened in there somewhere. The what was it? Oh, it was Commander Masters. That Eldrazi deck's in here too, untampered with, unopened, sitting in here too. I've got a bunch of these down the bottom. They're like precons. I opened the box, but I got the cards sealed in there. And some of them are opened and kind of like tweaked in some of my decks, and some of them aren't. So I've got a bunch of those in there, and I've got like tokens and boxes full of I think these are like rares or something, or one of the decks or something's in there, and I've got like the Clue Edition, Magic Clue Edition cards in here, and like extra deck boxes, extra sleeves. I've got multiple play mats, all my dice, my current deck lists minus the one I'm going to do my Deck-teck on. I even got a standard deck in here. That was a standard deck. I built it just to try and do like the Magic 80K or whatever, where you can, like, if you win or if you top, you can like end up winning a bunch of money and getting on the pro circuit. So I will do that next year as well. I'll build a standard deck and try and max out the power and see if I can take it to events and try and get on the on the tour, or at least to a regional qualifier or something. And the rest is just my commander decks in my list right now that I got going on. I've got some that are getting ready to get built, and some other stuff going on in the box. Underneath that, I've got like a giant, I think it's like an 1800 count official Magic box that I got several years ago that's got all my rares and stuff in it. So there's probably like 12 grand in this box, in this bag, this duffel right here that I'm taking with me. And it's all my good Magic stuff, all my like casual or like high power decks, and just everything I got going on that I might need, that I might play, because I've been playing a lot of Spell Table, and I was trying to go to Vegas, and I figured might as well take it with me rather than just leave it in the storage unit. So now I'm gonna set up and I'm gonna do my first Wild-ass Deck-teck. So over the weekend I played several spell table games. I think like 5. I think I played like 5. I won 2, and I didn't get to play anything like really high power, but I was playing like casual. So I was running the same couple decks all weekend. This was one of them. So I ran like 2 decks. I ran this one. This one's Anikthea, Hand of Erebos, and then my other casual deck is Zergo Helm Smasher, and it's like a, well, I don't know. I don't want to talk about that one now because I'll get to that eventually in its own Wild-ass Deck-teck. So before I go over Anikthea's Wild-ass Deck-teck, I'll briefly talk about these couple cards that I just bought. They're Dustmourne cards that I was missing that I didn't pull. There's only a few cards left in the set that I still want that I don't have, and they were fairly cheap. So I got a Enduring Tenacity, an Enduring Curiosity, a Razorkin Needlehead, and a Blazemeyer Verge. So I picked those up today at a local card shop. I was still looking for FOMO. I haven't been able to get a copy of FOMO yet. And what was the other card that was on my list? Oh, I think it was the white Enduring card, because it's I guess like a good standard deck, so it's hard to come by that card. And I also don't have Valgavoth Terror Eater. So those are the only cards I'm looking for. Still 3 cards still from Dustmourne that I'm still looking for that I didn't pull. So I picked up a couple at a local card shop. And I chose to go over Anikthea today because it's one of my 2 casual decks. So this deck and my other casual deck are like the weakest of all decks that I've built. I won't build decks at like a lower power level than this. And this is what I consider a 7. So, you know, that's the ongoing thing. I guess today they came out, I seen somebody covered it today, that Gavin Verhey did a video or I guess maybe wrote a blog or something. So he did something, talked about what happened to the rules committee and what they're going to be from now on, right? So I guess it's like what do they call it? The QFP or something like that. That's what the rules committee is now. It's like the Wizards commander group or whatever that they have signed to help liaison the format for them. And there's a list of all the names and stuff of the people that actually made the list, that made that group. And I'm happy to see that Josh Lee Kwai is back on there. You know, there's some other people on there. Olivia's on there. Louis Stardust is on there. So hot. Girl is so freaking hot. And I guess I don't really care about the other people. That's all I really care about. If I was on the group, I would be in the group just to have an excuse to DM Lua. Because, like, I really don't care if my opinions influence Commander or not, but it'd be sweet to be able to DM Lua. So, Anikthea, Hand of Erebos. Played a couple spell table games with Anikthea this weekend. I won 1, and it was a good game. The games I lost, I remember losing to like a CEDH deck. Oh, I think I won 3 games because I did win 3. I won 3 games, and then on one of the other games I got a kill with my other deck. I did play one of my high-powered decks over the weekend, but Anikthea got a win. So out of the game, what did I play? I played 2. I think I only played 1 with Anikthea. And I played 2 with Zergo, and then I played 1 with Radadabric. So Anikthea won the only game that I played, and that's why I wanted to cover it, because one of the next things I'm going to do is figure out how to like effectively record spell table in a way that I can transfer the videos onto YouTube, and it'll be like readable is basically what I'm going for, is readable. So you can watch it without having to edit, because I don't got like editors or time or you know, the ability really to invest into making it like professional. So I was just gonna do raw videos and take the videos right off there with dialogue and everything and put them right onto YouTube raw, and hopefully that the people, and just kind of communicate that I'm recording the games, so the people I'm playing with communicate their decks very well. So if you're watching the video, you know what's going on. So I guess I'll get to Anikthea. This is her wild ass Deck-teck. Anikthea, Hand of Erebos. It's an Enchantress deck, obviously. Let me see where my card should be at so you can read. Okay. So everybody kind of knows what Anikthea does, right? So for 2, a white, a black, and a green, she's a 4/4 legendary enchantment creature demigod with menace. Other enchantment creatures you control have menace. Whenever Anikthea enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target non-aura enchantment card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 3/3 black zombie creature in addition to its other types. So that's what the deck's built around, and it's basically just like standard Enchantress, but with my twist, right? So I put my own twist on every deck that I build. So it's not like net deck. I don't net deck anything. Even CDH decks, I don't net deck them. I get like a good like, I don't know. Because I've been playing Magic for so long, I kind of know what's in most people's decks for CDH. And then if I decide to play a CDH deck, I might look at a list and build my list off of that list, but I'm not going to net deck anybody's list. I'll always make my own changes and kind of put my own twist on every deck. So one of the twists in this deck, I don't know, I don't think it's probably all that common. It's Nethroi, Apex of Death. Helped me win the game because it brought back one of my enchantment creatures, which I absolutely needed at the end of the game that I played. And Nethroi is a 5-drop, 2, a white, a black, and a green for a 5/5 legendary creature, Cat Nightmare Beast with Mutate. And then it has Death Touch and Lifelink, and whenever this creature mutates, return any number of target creature cards with total power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then this was another big card in the game that I won. Doomwake Giant. For 4 and a black, it's an enchantment creature giant, a 4/6 with Constellation. Whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment creature, or enchantment, period, enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. I forget that he was playing Endless Swarm. That's what he was playing. He was playing Endless Swarm, and that deck was like really good. He was playing Tatiova, Endless Swarm, and it was me and him at the end, and it was kind of a slugfest through the whole game, but I wasn't in a great power position. I was playing Slivers and something else. I forget who was in the other position, what he was playing. But I wasn't in a great position, and so I wasn't really thought of as the threat. I was kind of going under the radar, and I was able to capitalize at the end because he was getting like 50, 60 something snakes with Endless Swarm at the end, and they were 3/3s because of enchantments he had on the field. So I was able to Doomwake Giant. I think I wiped him one time with Doomwake Giant, and then I was able to like triple spell to wipe out. I used one Nethroi to bring back another enchantment, and then I played another enchantment creature, and then I played my commander to wipe out his 3/3 like 50 something. I think he had like 100 something 3/3 snake tokens, but half of them were tapped because of Thalion the Gitrog monster. So that's another sweet little include I put in this deck. It's a semi-staxy card. You know him, you love him. Gitrog monster. Thalion's riding the Gitrog monster. For 1, a white, a black, and a green, legendary creature, human frog horror, first strike, death touch. You can play an additional land on your turns. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So whenever Thalion the Gitrog monster attacks, sacrifice a creature or land, then draw a card. So there's a buttload of draw in here in the deck because it's Enchantress, but there's not a lot of ramp. So, you know, Eidolon of Blossoms, classic Enchantress card. Whenever the Eidolon of Blossoms or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, draw. Viridian Enchantress, 3-drop Enchantress, 0/2. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw. Cetesian Champion for 2 and a green. It's got Constellation. It's a 1/3. Whenever enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on Cetesian Champion and draw a card. Righteous Valkyrie. I've got this in the deck because it's got like an angel sub theme, and we'll get to that later. So it's a 2/4. Whenever an angel or cleric I control enters the battlefield, I gain life equal to its toughness. If I have 7 or more life than my starting life total, creatures I control get a buff. +2/+2. A Jukai Naturalist for 2. It's lifelink. Other enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's considered ramp in the deck because there's not really shit for ramp in the deck. And I basically just upgraded the precon. So if you're following along and you've got this precon, you'll be able to see which cards were in the precon and which cards I really added, right? So Satyr Enchanter, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. I've got Heliod in there. Legendary enchantment creature god. He's 5/5, indestructible. He's not a creature unless your devotion to white is over 5. And then whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on creature or enchantment you control. And then for 1 and a white, another target creature you control gains lifelink till end of turn. So I've got the Walking Ballista, Heliod, Suncrowned combo in the deck. It's the only combo that's currently in the deck. I was thinking about altering the deck a little bit after I played it this weekend and throwing in that new room card. It's the arcade one. It goes infinite with here we'll see him, Undo Spirit Dancer. So for 4 and a white, whenever an enchantment spell enters the battlefield under you control, you can create a token that's a copy of it. Do this only once each turn. Only what you do is with that arcade spell in play, everything you play, every permanent you play is an enchantment. So you play this and it's an enchantment and it procs itself and it creates a token copy of itself that's an enchantment that creates a token copy of itself that's an enchantment that creates a token copy of itself. So I think you have to find a way to end the loop or it's a tie, but it makes infinite Undo Spirit Dancer tokens. But it's not in the deck. I haven't put it in the deck. It's in the other deck though. It's in that precon. What is it called? The Miracle precon from Duskmourn. So Nessian Wanderer for 1 and a green. It's a creature Satyr Scout with Constellation. It's a 1/3. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a land card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Cards like that are really important to the deck because I stuck to the strict theme, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of ramp. So to be able to fix mana in my hand is good. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, so that's like a pseudo ramp piece too. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Starfield Mystic. Destiny Spinner. It's an enchantment creature for 1 and a green. Creatures and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. So that's why it's in the deck. It's a 2/3. And it's got activated ability. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental creature with trample and haste till in turn, where X is the number of enchantments you control. It's still land. And now we get to some of the fun stuff. So Anikthea, my commander, is making token copies of enchantments. So I've got token doublers in the deck. So if I can make a token copy of an enchantment, I get double the enchantments when I play the token copy. And it's a 4/4. If 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Then you can sacrifice 2 artifacts and or creatures, put an indestructible counter on Mondrag. It's got a Dryad of the Elysian Glove in there. He's a enchantment creature, Nymph Dryad. Naked dude in a tree. You can play an additional land on each turn. Lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Like I said, not a lot of ramp. He goes perfectly in the deck because he's also an enchantment. Soul Warden. I put that in the deck because one of the first couple times I played it, I ended up making a fuck ton of tokens. So I put it in there to help gain life. There's some other stuff in there that helps gain life. Like the Angel that gives me the buff. So with the right setup, I can gain a lot of life really quick. And she's part of that. It's easy, efficient 1-drop. Sithis, obviously, in the deck. Harvester's Hand. For white and a green, whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain a life and draw a card. So, you know, more draw, more life gain. Enchantress stuff. So, Sanctum Weaver. You know, that's a gimme in any Enchantress deck nowadays. For 1 and a green, it's enchantment creature Dryad. Add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of enchantments you control. Super great card in the deck. It's like the best ramp piece in the entire deck. And if you can get it out with Anikthea from the graveyard and double it or triple it somehow, or double it and then double it, so quadruple it, it ends up being just a ridiculous amount of advantage where you're just creating so much mana and can do whatever it is that you want to do. So it can start to snowball pretty crazy. Usually people run Sithis as a commander, but I'm running black in the deck. So Archon of Sun's Grace, classic Enchantress staple card. For 2 and 2 white, flying lifelink, Pegasus creatures you control have lifelink and has Constellation. So whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 white Pegasus with flying. This one's probably a spicier include. It's a big drop. It's a big boy. Merkul, Lord of Bones for 4, a white, a black, and a green. As long as your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, Merkul, Lord of Bones is indestructible. A lot of people run this as a commander, so I thought about throwing him in there. He is spicy. I've only got to play him a couple times, but he does a lot. So whenever another non-token creature you control dies, I can exile it, and if I do, create a token that's a copy of that card. Not create a copy that's a token. It creates a token. That's specifically very important. So my token doublers and stuff will work with Merkul. And then it's an enchantment and loses all of its other types. This card helped me win the game that Anikthea won over the weekend. Demon of Fate's design for 4 and 2 black. It's a 6/6 flying trample enchantment creature. Demon. Once during each of your turns, you may cast an enchantment spell by paying life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. So I was able to pull it out so I could like triple spell, and it helped me deal with the snakes. I forget what that could, endless swarm or something like that he was playing, where he's just playing a ridiculous amount of snakes because he drew like his whole deck. He had like 10 cards left in his library. He had infinite hand size, and he's making like 50 something, 60 something snakes a turn. So he helped me multiple like triple spell so that way I could kill all the snakes. So Composer of the Spring for 1 and a green. It says creature Satyr Bard. I think that's a real staple card in Enchantress decks nowadays, which I think is why this is one of the reasons why I bought the deck. So it has Constellation. Whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, you may play a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you control 6 or more enchantments, instead, you may put a creature or land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. So that's ridiculously powerful, Enchantress. Herald of the Pantheon. Like I said, this is a pretty upgraded precon, but a lot of the shell of the precon is still here. So Herald of the Pantheon for 1 and a green. It's a 2/2. Enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you gain a life. So along with the same kind of theme here, we're casting enchantments. We're making enchantments cheaper. We're drawing a bunch of cards, regular Enchantress stuff, right? So Silent Sentinel, I added in there. He's a big boy. For 5 and 2 white, he's a 4/6 flyer. Whenever Silent Sentinel attacks, you can return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's like redundancy for my commander's effect, but instead of returning it to the battlefield as a creature, I'm just able to bring back a enchantment that I really needed. This is a spicy include. Osier Talk, Deepest Foundations, the token tripler for 4 and 2 white. It's Vigilance. If you create a token, a creature token, you can create 3 times as many. So what happens is, when I trigger Anikthea and I make a zombie token of an enchantment and he's on the field, I make 3 copies of that enchantment, which is either an enchantment creature or just a regular enchantment. Now let's say that particular enchantment is a token doubling enchantment. Now I'm creating 3 copies of said token doubling enchantment. So now when I play another token, it doubles and then doubles and then doubles, and there's 3 times as many of it. So I think actually the way it would stack is there'd be 3 times as many of it. Instead of 1, it becomes 3, then 3 becomes 6, then 6 becomes 12, then 12 becomes 24 tokens off of 1 Anikthea trigger. If you do it that way and you use Anikthea to bring back a token doubler. So it gets ridiculously out of hand with the right cards on the field. It can snowball like crazy. There's not a lot of ramp, like I said, but there's quite a bit of card draw. Kamiya Transcendence, or Transience, for 1 and a green. It's a 2/2 trample. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Kamiya Transience. At the beginning of each end step, if an enchantment was put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn, you may return Kamiya Transience from your graveyard to your hand. And then I put Lyra Dawnbringer in the deck, because, like I said, there's a theme of angels. We'll see. We'll get to that here in a second. So it's an angel. Flying, first strike, lifelink. Other angels you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. Same theme. We got Enchantress stuff. We're making angels. Mesa Enchantress, classic Enchantress card. Whenever you cast an enchantment, draw a spell. Or whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Kutzul made it in the deck. Kutzul, Malamet Exemplar. For 1, a green and a white. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So it's just kind of to stop people when I start to snowball. It's kind of to stop people from, countering me or from interacting with my pieces during my turn. Whenever one or more creatures you control, each with power greater than its base power, deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So just not only does it help stop, but it also helps me draw. So there's only one instant and one sorcery in the deck. So we got an Enlightened Tutor. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment, reveal it, shuffle it, put it on top. So it's the only tutor in the deck. And W.a.D's Aid, and it's like a reanimator card. Turn target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So let's say I discard or mill into an enchantment or a big giant, one of them big banger creatures. I can bring it back for 5 mana. Very, very casual card, but it's a sorcery. Not exactly sure why it made the deck. I think it's just like redundancy for if a key piece gets blown up and let's say I can't recast the Anikthea or something. They've killed Anikthea. I've got commander tax. It's difficult for me to do. Then I can play W.a.D's Aid and get that piece back. So Soul Ring, obviously. Arcane Signet, obviously. Now we get to the good stuff, the enchantments. I do believe there's 35 lands in the deck, so I'm not going to go over the lands. They're lands, right? It's a casual mana base, but it's decent. So I'll finger through it real quick. There's a few tap lands in here. I like to make sure there's different arts. So it's got a few tap lands, a few really good lands in there. It's got Exotic Orchard. And not anything particularly special. It's got Triomes and, obviously Command Tower and Fabled Passage. It's got, Manland. So it's not particularly special or whatever, but it's basically like a budget plus. There's an Overgrown Tomb. I just had laying around an extra one, so I threw it in there. Like a budget plus mana base for it. Nothing too crazy, nothing too special. 35 lands. And now we got a bunch of enchantments. Here, let me count the enchantments. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 enchantments, not including the enchantment creatures. So we got a Virtuous Strength. That card helped me win the game. If you tap a basic land for mana, it produces 3 times that much. And then it's got a sorcery side, return target creature or land card from your graveyard to your hand. Just in case, the deck is struggling to ramp. If I go against a deck that tries to churn some of my land in the graveyard early, and I need it, get that land back later in the game, play it for its ridiculous effect, and if I can double or triple that effect, crazy, right? So Luminarch Ascension, this one I don't really care about doubling, but it's one of my angel pieces that makes a bunch of angels. So if I can make a bunch of mana, I can make a buttload of angels, and the angels are creature tokens, and I'm doubling tokens, so I can make a buttload of angels with that card. Blind Obedience, super good enchantment. It's kind of stacksy. The deck does have a little bit of a stacksy element to it. It's got Extort. One of the games I played with it, I've actually won with the Blind Obedience because of the Extort ability, and I had a bunch of mana in play, so I was able to extort a bunch of times. So artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. There's a redundancy for Thalion the Get Rock monster. Anointed Procession. Yes, this deck is a 7. This is my version of what a 7 is. Some people might call it an 8 because it's got that one loop in it, that one infinite with Heliod and Walking Ballista. But no, it's a 7. It plays like a 7. I can play it with any casual deck, and it's not particularly overpowered until I start to snowball. It's not particularly fast, but it's very consistent. So, Anointed Procession. Intangible Virtue. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. It goes really good in the deck because I'm making a bunch of tokens. And when the token strategy starts to get on board, it gets out of control, and it's nice to have Vigilance. Utopia Sprawl. That's just one of my little hidden ramp cards in the deck for 1 green. When it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Whenever Enchanted Forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional color or 1 mana of the chosen color. Nice little Guardian project in there. That's a good card to double or triple. So you have multiple Guardian projects. Then you play, anytime you play a creature, you're going to draw a bunch of cards. And it's budget, kind of. Karmic Justice. Whenever a spell or an ability an opponent controls destroys a non-creature permanent you control, you may destroy target permanent that opponent controls. So it's just kind of a way for me to like control the field, or for me to threaten their field so they don't blow up my stuff, like keep off my stuff. So I threw a bunch of courts in here. I like how the courts play in the deck, especially when I can bring them back, and it adds more card draw because it introduces the Monarch. The Monarch is always fun. So I've got the Court of Locthwain. When it enters the battlefield, I become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of target opponent's library. You can play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and pay mana of any type that can be spent to cast it. If you're the Monarch until end of turn, you can cast the spell from among cards exiled with Court of Locthwain without paying its mana cost. And Enchantress Presence. You know, classic staple Enchantress card. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, draw a card. Mirari's Wake. It's creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever I tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of that type that land produced. So another way to exponentially increase my mana production. So I can drop multiple enchantments and draw a bunch of cards and keep it going, and draw a bunch of cards and keep it going. So Phyrexian Arena, that made the deck. It's just another great little draw card. Beginning of your upkeep, draw a card, lose a life. Death's Oasis made the deck for a white, a green, and a black. It's an enchantment. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. So that's one of my little self-milling cards. It does help. Then return a creature card with lesser converted mana cost than the creature that died from your graveyard to your hand. And also, like I said, it's got a little bit of redundancy. It fills my graveyard slowly. It helps my commander. And, you know, and I can get lands back and all this kind of stuff. So I can sacrifice the Death's Oasis, and it adds to my life gain strategy. I gain life equal to the greatest converted mana cost among creatures I control. It's got a Bitter Blossom in there because I'm doubling tokens. I'm potentially tripling tokens, and I can bring it back from the graveyard doubled and have multiple Bitter Blossoms on the field at once. That then will bring out its own tokens that double. So it's a fun card in the deck. Meat Hook Massacre's in the deck, a legendary enchantment, of course. It's one of my board wipe pieces in the deck that is an enchantment. Black, and X. Whenever the Meat Hook Massacre enters the battlefield, each creature gets -X till end of turn. Whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, I gain a life. So it kind of is doing both things I wanted to do. And it's a board wipe, and it's an enchantment. You know, no big surprise here. Necropotence made the deck. Black. Skip your draw step. Whenever you discard a card, exile the card from your graveyard. Pay 1 life. Exile the top card of your library face down. Put that card into your hand at the beginning of your end step. Greater Oromancy. For 1 and a white. An enchantment where other enchantments you control have Shroud. Enchanted creatures you control have Shroud. So, awesome card for me. Awesome card for the deck. Give all my stuff Shroud, so it helps protect my pieces. Decay's welcome. It's an enchantment, it's card draw, it's in white, it's in the deck. Whenever 1 or more creatures with mana value 3 or less enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. The ability only triggers once each turn. It does still trigger off of my token creatures, so because they're 0 mana value or 0 CMC. So that's why it made the deck, and it can potentially duplicate itself. And I can get multiple triggers off it, right? Because I'm doubling tokens. So Starfield of Nyx, obviously, this is a staple card in enchantment decks. I do believe this card was in the precon. Yeah. So Starfield of Nyx for 4 and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is amazing in this deck. As long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non-aura enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types, and has base power and toughness, each equal to its mana value. So that's a win con in the deck. This was in the deck already. I almost cut this card, but then I decided to keep the Angel strategy, and I actually love this card in the deck. Sigil of the Empty Throne. For 3 and 2 white, whenever I cast an enchantment spell, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Doubling, tripling the tokens, doubling and tripling them, doubling them and doubling them and doubling them and tripling them. So I'm doing all kinds of crazy stuff with tokens, and it's an angel, and I'm doing stuff with angels. So this card's kind of doing everything I want it to do. Overly costed, but I found a good way to make use of it. So Cacophony Unleashed. For 5 black, when Cacophony Unleashed enters the battlefield, if you cast it, destroy all non-enchantment creatures, so it's potentially a one-sided board wipe for me. Whenever Cacophony Unleashed or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, until end of turn, Cacophony Unleashed becomes a legendary 6/6 Nightmare God creature with Menace and Death Touch. It's still an enchantment. You know it, you love it. Smothering Tithe. I mean, it wouldn't be a 7 without Smothering Tithe. It wouldn't be a white deck without Smothering Tithe. This deck, like I said, really doesn't have a whole lot of ramp in it, and I've went through most of it already, so you guys can tell I really need the help. When I get Smothering Tithe on the field in this deck, it is an exceptional card in the deck. I'm doubling and tripling tokens. Well, not with W.a.D, because that card only triples creature tokens, but this card really is a big piece in the deck, and although it is a high-powered card, this card in the deck by itself does not make this deck an 8. So it's got 1 loop in it, and it's only got 1 freaking tutor in the whole deck, and I'm just searching for an enchantment. So I can potentially, with Walking Ballista in my hand, search for Heliod, or with Heliod in my hand, I can potentially search for Walking Ballista. But, you know, it's not really that consistent. The consistency in the deck is in the card draw. So, Smothering Tithe, much needed ramp for the deck. Court of Ardenvale. So this is another one of the courts that I added in the deck. When Court of Ardenvale enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. If you're the Monarch, return that permanent to the battlefield instead. Ghostly Prison. It's here to help protect me. It's here to help protect the Monarch, so I can get the good abilities off of the Monarch triggers from the courts. So, you know, creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 or more, or 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. Another token doubler, Parallel Lives. Obviously, it made the deck. This card, I didn't really want to know if I wanted to add it in here or not. It was in the pre-con, and then, you know, I started thinking of an old deck way back in the day, like when this card first came out, and my nephew used to play it. And it's powerful in 1v1. It's a higher drop at that time. Now it's vastly outpaced. But in this deck, I got to keep this card from the pre-con in the deck and make a lot of use on it because I'm doubling and tripling creature tokens. So yeah, Sandworm Convergence for 8 isn't crazy when you're creating a 5/5 green worm creature token at the beginning of your end step. But when you animated this from your graveyard into a 3/3 creature for free, or you're doubling the tokens, when it comes out as a token and you're doubling it and you got 2 or 3 Sandworm Convergences on the field, or 4 Sandworm Convergences on the field, because they're token creatures, and then they're making token creatures, it seemed like it was exponentially cool and a good casual way for me to include Sandworm Convergence in the deck. For me to not cut it. There's a good reason for me to not cut it. Grasp of Fate. It's one of the only good, it's one of the only removal spells in the entire deck. So for 1, a white and a white, when Grasp of Fate enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Grasp of Fate leaves the battlefield. So it's an O-ring for Commander. It hits everybody. Awesome card. Nice little alternate art. Made the deck. No Mercy. So it's another Pillow Fort card. I need to protect myself. I need to try to make myself not the threat. Draw a bunch of cards, manage to protect myself, manage to make you know, a bunch of mana or a bunch of tokens or something so I can take over the game. And this is just one way to, because I don't really have removal, for me to get removal and for me to get a Pillow Fort effect that helps protect me and move my game plan forward. Nice alternate art. No Mercy as well. And then the last court that made the deck, Court of Grace. When it enters the battlefield, I become the Monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white spear creature token with flying. If I am the Monarch, because I got Pillow Fort cards or can protect my monarchy, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying instead. So, you know, making more angel tokens. And that is the Wild-est Deck-teck for Anikthea. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I don't know, obviously off the cuff, I try to do the best I can with the lines in the deck. If you played me, you could probably see a little bit more on how it snowballs, but you can imagine, with the way I went through everything, getting a few of those key pieces on the field at the same time, maybe some protection, how the deck can snowball and get out of control. But like I said, this is the weakest one. It's arguably the weakest deck that I have made right now, and the only other deck that could potentially be in the same bracket, which I would call a 7 with this deck, is the Zergo Helm Smasher deck, and that will be my next Wild-est Deck-teck. So alright guys, that's it for me today. That's Anikthea, Hand of Erebos, Wild-est Deck-teck. Peace out.